Next from Springfield, Governor Rauner urges for a stopgap budget that would fund education, transportation, and other government services during the current state budget impasse. This runs about 25 minutes.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. We have 2 weeks left in this fiscal year. We don't have a budget. We have schools being threatened not to open and not receive money. And we have essential government services, human services, healthcare services, government operations without appropriations. And essential services being threatened to be cut off. Services that the people of Illinois depend on and absolutely need and require in their lives. We've got to take action. Unfortunately, the General Assembly left town a couple weeks ago. They haven't been back. And every day matters. Our teachers need to know what the funding is going to be for their schools. Our students and parents need to know what the funding is going to be for their schools. They need to plan now for the upcoming school year. And our teachers and our students should come first. We have money in education accounts. The cash is there to fund the level of spending that we've recommended in our education funding bill. It's a responsible bill. It doesn't put on excess spending. It doesn't bail out any other school districts. It provides essential school funding. Every school district will get at least as much money as they did last year, and many school districts will get materially more money than they got last year under our proposed budget for education. We are advocating going to 100% of the foundation level for the first time in 7 years and significantly increasing funding for early childhood education, because our low-income youngsters need to have high-quality child care with an education component, so when they get to first grade, they're ready to thrive. And because the current in-place education funding formula that the Democrats put in 2003 is still in place, and no one's been able to agree on how to change it, we have to live with the current funding formula. Under our current funding formula, every year some school districts get more money and some get less, depending on how many students they have enrolled, how many students in poverty they have, and what their property values are. We've said, in order to get through this short-term problem, let's hold every school district harmless, so that even if they have fewer students, like Chicago does, or even if they have fewer students in poverty, or even if they've got somewhat higher property values, let's hold every school district harmless. Let's get them at least as much money as they did last year, so no one has a reduction for their school district. We think it's reasonable, it is affordable, and the cash is there, and we think it's the right thing to do. Likewise, we have a bill that we've introduced to fund essential services from the government: human services, healthcare services, corrections, public safety, public health. We have essential services that need to continue to operate. The leaders from across the aisle have indicated they don't want any votes on difficult issues, balanced budget reforms, until after the general election, meaning probably January. So we need government to continue to function at least until January. So we've laid out an appropriation bill. We've introduced an appropriation bill that funds essential human services. It allows for federal government funds pass-throughs, and it funds essential public health, public safety, human services at levels that are affordable. Money is there in our human services accounts. The money is there. It's reasonable, and it will get us through January for essential services. We're calling on the members of the General Assembly, the supermajority, please come back to Springfield. Please vote on these two bills. It is critically important. The people of Illinois deserve us to do our jobs. Even though we haven't had a balanced budget in years, and this year we don't have any budget at all of any type, no matter what, government must continue to function, essential services must be provided, and our schools need to open on time at the full foundation level, fully funded schools. This is the right thing to do. The people of Illinois deserve it. We're calling on the General Assembly, come back here to Springfield, vote on these two bills. Let's get them passed. And don't play games with them. Don't delay. Don't come up with excuses why action can't be taken. And don't lard these bills up with a lot of additional spending that we can't afford in an effort to force an income tax hike next January. Don't layer on, fatten these bills up with lots more spending beyond what we've recommended. What we've recommended in the spending level is affordable, it's a good amount, it's reasonable, gets the job done, and it gets more money to our schools. This we need to pass. Now, I have standing here with me today leaders who run various of our state agencies. Many of our state agencies are on the verge of crisis. Many essential services are on the verge of not being funded. Our road construction and capital development, which is essential for growing our economy and creating jobs. Many of our human services are on the verge of crisis and shutting down their essential services. That allowing the crisis to develop, allowing the crisis to continue is wrong. We need to pass these two bills. I'd like to ask several of our directors and our secretaries to come to the podium and address you from their agency's perspective and share with you their thoughts. And I'd like to begin with Randy Blankenhorn, head of our Department of Transportation here in Illinois.
Thank you, Governor. Good afternoon. I'm Illinois Secretary of Transportation Randy Blankenhorn. I'm here today to tell you that we're on the brink of what was once unthinkable, the suspension of the Illinois Department of Transportation's construction program. We were able to avoid this scenario a year ago with the passage of a capital appropriation that was signed by the governor, who clearly understands the role that Illinois plays as a transportation hub of North America. The result was we were able to carry out our program uninterrupted. But without stopgap funding proposed by the governor, I'm afraid we are on a collision course with having to shut down projects throughout the state in the matter of a few short weeks. I can't overstate the consequences of inaction. IDOT currently has more than 800 active projects up and running up and down the state, totaling more than $2 billion. Without stopgap agreement, those projects will be shut down next month. Approximately 25,000 workers will be sent home and will be unable to execute any of the new projects as a part of the $2 billion FY17 construction program. Hundreds of millions of dollars in federal funding that belong to Illinois will be unable to be turned around to serve our state's needs and to invest in our state's infrastructure. Stopping and starting projects is not as easy as flipping a switch. If we have to mothball our work zones only to start again later, this will tack on tens of millions of dollars in completely avoidable costs just to ensure that our work zones are safe. We will be starting discussions with our industry partners on how this process might unfold, no matter how distasteful this conversation is. As always, the safety of the traveling public is our top priority. Even more severe are the real-life impacts that this shutdown would have on so many of our residents. Our construction projects not only improve transportation in our state, but they circulate billions of dollars in our communities. Just one project means construction workers get paid and in turn support their families and reinvest in their local economies. We lose all of that if we stop work. There are other ramifications. $600 million in FY17 funding that's anticipated to be shared with local governments for things like patching, building sidewalks, buying salt for the winter can no longer be distributed. The list of negative consequences goes on and on and on. The bottom line is every county, every city, every town, every business, every resident in Illinois will suffer. What the governor is proposing is a reasonable solution that will allow our programs to continue seamlessly. There is only one responsible solution on the table now. I urge the members of the General Assembly back to Springfield to work to pass the stopgap funding bill that we all need. With that, I'd like to introduce Jody Golden, who's the Executive Director of the Capital Development Board. Jody?
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Jody Golden. I'm the Executive Director of the Illinois Capital Development Board. There are only 2 weeks left until the end of the fiscal year, and I'm here today to talk to you about the impact of the majority party not working with the governor on the Capital Development Board. Due to the lack of our capital reappropriations in fiscal year 16, a year ago today I had to send out stop work letters to over 200 construction projects across the state. These projects range from vital school construction grants to our veterans' homes. Many routine maintenance issues have turned into critical concerns, and we also have very limited ability to address any unforeseen emergencies that could occur. This also means that our vital assets and our construction sites are sitting stagnant, exposed to the weather and other environmental and structural risks. Additionally, we're incurring costs on those sites every day. This also is severely impacting the businesses of our committed partners, our architects, our engineers, our contractors, our subcontractors, and our suppliers on projects that have been stalled for almost a year now. For example, several of our mental health facilities across the state of Illinois have power and safety issues that need to be addressed, such as a backup generator at the Alton Mental Health Facility. Additionally, the state's spent over hundreds of thousands of dollars on temporary measures at these construction sites, such as temporary heating and cooling at the SIUE facility. We must get these fixed. The sad truth is, without a stopgap funding bill, we won't be able to pay for the necessary projects to fix our corrections facilities, our universities, and our veterans' homes. Our job at CDB is to address critical capital projects and capital needs across the state from Chicago to Cairo, and without funding, we cannot do our jobs. This lack of funding also puts on hold jobs for the people of the state of Illinois. CDB needs a stopgap bill passed so that we can restart these construction projects and put Illinois workers back to work. The majority party needs to put politics aside and put the people of Illinois first. I really urge the General Assembly to please come back to Springfield, put the stopgap bill funding bill to a vote. This is a solution that's funded. It's able to put these construction projects back to work immediately and avoid missing yet another summer construction season. Thank you.
Thanks, Jody. Again, we are reaching out to you in the media, asking you to spread the word to your viewers, your listeners, your readers. This is a critical time in Illinois. Our schools deserve to open on time with more money, full foundation level, no more proration, no more cuts. And under the existing funding formula that was put in 2003, make sure that no school district gets less money. It's fair, this is affordable, it's the right thing to do. We are asking you to spread that message. Similarly, we have a bill introduced right now to fund our essential human services, our social services, healthcare services, public safety services, essential government operations that the people of Illinois depend on. This bill is affordable. It won't force an income tax hike next winter. The money's there, it's reasonable, it's the right thing to do. And we're imploring each of your viewers and your listeners directly. If you live in a community that has a state senator or a state representative who's in the supermajority, contact your senator, contact your representative, ask them to come to Springfield and vote for these two bills, to fund our schools at the full foundation level, no more cuts, no more proration, and fund this stopgap budget that will allow essential services to function through January, when the leaders have said at that point they may be willing to vote on a truly balanced budget, a long-term balanced budget, and reforms to grow our economy and protect our taxpayers. With that, I'll open it up to questions.
What happened to no budget without reforms, which we heard so many times earlier in your administration?
Well, we're doing the best we can. This budget is not a long-term solution. This stopgap budget gets us through January at a basic level of services. It doesn't have a lot of excess spending in it. It's just the basic necessities as we see them right now. And again, in the spirit of compromise, we have not attached any reforms to this spending. What we've said is, let's get through to January. The leaders on the other side of the aisle have said they don't want to take votes on reforms or a truly balanced budget until after the election. They are interested in seeing the election results before they decide how to deal with reforms, I believe. So we need to come up with some solution. The people of Illinois need answers. They need action. So we've introduced this stopgap budget. It's not anybody's first choice. I'd rather have a balanced budget and with reforms. That we've tried hard for over a year to get that done. The folks across the aisle don't want that, at least not. They haven't been willing to vote on it yet. So we've got to take action. We need to protect our teachers and our students, and we've got to protect our most vulnerable residents who need essential government services.
This is the second week now that House session has been canceled. We're clearly approaching July 1st. Are you reconsidering calling a special session to get these issues on the table?
Well, I have been in daily communication with Democrats in the supermajority, and I've been speaking with various members of the General Assembly at various levels of seniority. And we've continued to talk about different ideas and compromises, et cetera. What they have indicated so far is they're not ready to take any votes. I don't want to waste people's time. I don't want to waste taxpayer money. It's not clear that I would be allowed to fund the special session myself. I've offered that, but I'm not sure I'd be allowed to. And I don't want to cause disruption. You know, calling special sessions has been tried in the past by other governors, and it hasn't really worked. It's my sense of, in asking people about it, it just caused more emotions to run high and resentment and upset. And we don't need, I mean, I think we're all interested in trying to keep emotions. Everybody's emotions are running high because we've got a crisis, but try to keep people as calm as possible. And I don't think they should come unless they're ready to vote. What I'm asking is get ready to vote and vote now. And please come and vote. We've got 2 bills. They're good bills. They're affordable. They're reasonable. They get us through this crisis. They don't force a tax hike. They don't bail out Chicago at Illinois taxpayers' expense. They fund schools equitably and reasonably and hold all school districts harmless, so under the current funding formula, nobody gets less. It's a reasonable thing to do, and it's the right thing to do.
Governor, you keep on talking about these 2 bills as they are. What then is the working group that's discussing a stopgap budget doing? I mean, do you talk to the members about how altered they might be when and if they do come back to Springfield, and how much are you willing to change from the format that they were presented in to what they could look like with Democratic input?
Well, there are a lot of discussions going on. I'm in some of them, many of them I'm not privy to, and members in the General Assembly and our administration are talking every day on a variety of topics. My concern is twofold. One, this process seems to me to be being dragged intentionally, to drag this out and delay, to cause stress and to cause a crisis. That's my perception. I hope I'm wrong, but I think I'm right. And there's really no reason for that. Why should we cause stress for our students and our teachers and to our most vulnerable citizens who depend on services? They deserve better treatment than that. I'm also very concerned that the process is being dragged, and in the end what's going to happen is our bills won't get voted on. Different bills will get proposed that have a lot more spending in them, But that is not affordable. The money's not there for it. And what will get proposed is a bailout for the city of Chicago in the end. I believe that's what's coming. And I believe that what's also coming is a proposal to spend a lot more in government operations and in various services. Money that's not there is not affordable today with our current revenue, and that would force a massive income tax hike next winter. That's not the right thing to do. The people of Illinois deserve better than that. We should get through this crisis, this short-term issue, with essential services provided with the money that's there. The money's there, and it's available to us, and it'll get us through this crisis so then we can vote on a truly balanced budget with reforms next winter.
Governor, you have a new chief
So
of
just
staff.
let me get some other ones.
Thank you. I have a question for Director Golden.
Oh, okay.
Sure. CDB is not, unlike IDOT, didn't have any funding for FY16. And last time I looked, maybe the number has changed, but CDB had 29 or 30 project managers. What are these people doing?
Sure. Well, we did have a very small appropriation of 16 is for $4 million for a couple of specific projects, but that was it for 16. As far as what we're doing now, we do still have active projects. We have over 100 active moving projects that are funded from external sources. So our project managers are still working on active projects. We're also taking a deep dive into our own internal processes and procedures to see how we can become more efficient and more effective as an agency.
So there's going to be a report on that, on the review, how you can become more effective.
We're working together on those right now with our chief procurement officer and looking together internally as well. But
and you shut down $700 million in projects. $4 million is enough to keep people.
no, the $4 million in appropriations was specific to two projects. So the other projects that are moving are funded from external sources.
Governor, what about the $700 million bill that is on your desk and Senator McCarter now says you should sign?
That bill provides some funding for some important human services, but it doesn't do the necessary things to keep the government functioning and it doesn't avert a crisis. Our proposal on a stopgap budget includes the funding in that bill, but it goes further, and we must go further. We can't have other government services shut down while a few services are funded. That would be a failure on our part. So rather than sign that bill and support that bill, what we're advocating is let's do the comprehensive solution. Let's get this done once right. Let's do it right the first time. Let's get a budget that gets us all the way through January, so that then we can hopefully get a truly balanced budget with real reforms.
Governor, do you have an incoming? How do you justify borrowing millions of dollars to pay for road construction and infrastructure when we have rape crisis centers closing and homeless shelters going without funding?
Borrowing for government operations is not the right thing to do. Borrowing for operations is not the right thing to do from the bond market. What is appropriate, and is always appropriate no matter what, is to grow our economy and grow jobs through infrastructure. We can't have a healthy economy, we can't create jobs unless we invest in our infrastructure, and it is very appropriate every year to borrow in the bond market to fund infrastructure. That is good financial management. Tying long-term projects with long-term paybacks to long-term financing is the right thing to do. We did it last year. We want to do it this year. We're going to do it every year. And it's not for operations. It's not for this year's operations. It's for long-term investment. And we will always go to the bond market to do that at the lowest cost we can.
How can the state afford the debt service on those bonds when there's been no budget in place for a year and it looks like we're headed into another year without a budget?
Well, how do we do anything without a budget? I mean, it's hard. I mean, I have to say I give our team and our administration tremendous credit for being able to run the government for 18 months with massive deficits and no budget. It's extraordinary performance by the leaders in our team. We're doing heroic things. The people of Illinois deserve better than the historic financial management and our current financial management of the state. We need balanced budgets. We don't have one. We need economic growth. We don't have it. We need higher paying jobs. We don't have them. We need properly funded schools. We don't have them today. The people of Illinois deserve better. We've got the short-term solution. Fund schools with our bill, fund government services with our bill. That's the short-term solution. And the long-term solution is a balanced budget with reforms to grow the economy, protect our property taxpayers against the brutally high property taxes that are crushing us in Illinois, pension reform that's fair and constitutional, and political reforms to make our democracy work better for our people. Those are the right things to do, term limits and fair maps. And we will always advocate for those reforms. The important thing to note is Democrats and Republicans in the state of Illinois overwhelmingly support all of those types of reforms. So we just need to stay the course. Some special interest groups don't support those reforms. But you know what? We shouldn't be the state of special interests. We should be the state of the people, all the people. Democrats, Republicans, Independents, it shouldn't matter. We should work for the people of the state, and the people want reforms in our state, and that's what we're going to work to deliver for them.
Last question. Incoming chief of staff who's previously had a toxic relationship, let's say, with Democratic legislators. Have you given Rich Goldberg any sort of directive in his attitude toward the General Assembly and how he might be successful? And can you also address, you keep on saying that you talk to legislators, particularly Democrats, on working groups, not at all levels. Can you give us a clue of maybe, I don't know, a handful of some of these legislators that you're in communication with?
So first, I'm talking with members of the General Assembly every day. In both sides of the aisle. And I have many close friends on the Democratic side of the aisle. I will leave it to them if they want to come forward and identify who's been meeting with me, who we've gone out and had, socialized with, and who we've made progress negotiating with. I'll leave that them to decide. I don't want to be the one who's divulging that. But we've got very cordial working relationships. And I will say this, there are many people in the General Assembly with good hearts. They're for the right reasons, and they know that our reforms are reasonable, and they're supportive in private. It's a question of if enough of them can get up the courage, because we've seen what happens if one stands and does the right thing. But if 30 stand and do the right thing, it's going to be harder for any retribution to happen. So that's what we're trying to get. In terms of, well, this was the last one, so I'm going to finish this. Is it okay if I, okay. So you asked about my new chief of staff. I would disagree with your characterization of the relationship between my current Chief of Staff and in his former role as legislative liaison. Clearly, there's stressful dynamics when we don't have a budget and we don't have reforms. He has the respect of people on both sides of the aisle in the General Assembly, great respect. In his role, frankly, now as Chief of Staff, he'll probably be interacting with the legislature much less than he's been in the past. He's a super talent, extraordinarily hardworking and driven and very creative. And I think he's served our administration well, and I think he's going to be an outstanding Chief of Staff. And I'm very proud of our entire administration. We've got wonderful executives with great leadership. And we will continue to work in good faith with the Democrats and Republicans, trying to come up with reforms and try to come up with truly balanced budgets. The people of Illinois need budgets that are balanced. We can't keep spending us into the poorhouse like we've been doing. So I'm excited. We'll get there. I'm frustrated that it's taken too long, but we've got to take a short-term action now and then a long-term action. The short-term action is pass our two bills, get schools funded and open on time with the full foundation level, no more proration, and hold all school districts harmless. So even though Chicago or other districts have fewer students or fewer students in poverty, get them still the same amount of money. It's a reasonable compromise. It's a reasonable thing. Don't bail out Chicago. Don't lard this education bill up with a lot more money to bail out Chicago. That's not fair to the taxpayers of Illinois. Don't do that, please. But let's pass our education funding bill, and let's pass our funding for government operations, human services, public safety. Pass that bill. The money's there. It's affordable. It won't force an income tax hike without reforms to pass the current bill. Please don't lard that bill up with lots of other spending, lots of other appropriations with no way to pay for it. That would force an income tax without reforms next winter. That we should not allow to happen. No tax hikes without reforms, efficient government, and let's get through this short-term crisis by passing these two bills. Thanks very much, everybody. I appreciate it.